Good morning, and I'm continuing. I need to sweep my feet off here. My series on trail building and maintenance. Whether or not you are the manager of a trail system, or an employee of a trail system, or have, say, deck work or your own boardwalk to bridge wet areas in your own property, there is always the issue of safety. In my case, I'm very concerned with the safety, oh, deer, hi deer, deer everywhere, of the visitors that come here. And so this short section, and the one that I just finished, and coming up to an 840-foot section, I've got a total of about 2,000 feet of boardwalk here, and I've replaced over 1,000 feet of it so far. But this original section gets really, really slippery when it's wet, and so I actually have to close this section off. Not good. Visitors should be able to enjoy the entire trail system, even if there's wet boardwalks. So I need to manage the slippery nature of wood when it's wet. The greatest contribution to slipperiness comes from the algae. Even in cold weather, algae can be a problem. And so I look at it from, there's two ways to handle it. Either mechanical, or using what I'm doing now is bleaching the boardwalks with a solution of a little greater than 3 to 1. It's a relatively strong solution of bleach, and I'm very careful, and I'll show you how I go about it, because boardwalks by their very nature are in wet areas. So the bleach that I put down and the follow-up of a water seal has to be done really carefully so you don't get any on the ground. I'm doing the surface here, and I'm not worried about the ends, I'm not worried about the underneath or the edges of the boards. I am only interested in getting the deck boards, the surface that people walk on, grippy. And so I have two ways of doing it, basically. The first way is to go out during a really heavy storm, lots and lots of rain, it's like a thunderstorm, and I use this power head, Echo power head, that I can put different attachments onto it, whether or not it's a weed whip or a chainsaw, you know. I have a pole chainsaw, or even this brush. Unfortunately, Echo doesn't sell wire brushes anymore. They only have the fiber brushes, so it makes more work for me, or for people that are using mechanical means to get the algae off their boardwalk. And how that basically works is you go out in the worst possible weather, and you're using this power brush on the boardwalks, and you have to go back and forth and back and forth, because you'll go out, scrub the boardwalks. Even though it throws it that way, the upper end of it throws the algae water back on you. And so you make a pass, let the rain wash off what you've loosened, make another pass, and it usually takes about 4 tries before you can turn an algae-covered boardwalk into a grippy surface. That does not solve it, because the algae will grow back. So my preferred method is, and this is a beautiful time, I haven't checked the weather, but I can tell that rain is going to come. I could either check the meteorological reports and know when I'm going to get a heavy rain, or else I just kind of feel it in my binds. That's old person for bones. And so I can tell that we're getting weather coming in here in the next day or so. I am taking, and I'm going to run away from you for a bit, but I have my pan of a bleach solution, and it's a heavy bleach solution. I'm not monkeying around here. It's probably about 1 part bleach to about 5 or 6 parts water. Again, not monkeying around here. And using a simple sponge brush, sponge mop. Believe it or not, they actually last a long time. I'm going to get this off so it doesn't splash. And it's simply a process of carefully, and without squishing the mop down, because you don't want any to run, you're just painting the boardwalk. And so on this particular section, I just completed another section. I'll do it not putting heavy layers on, because that will allow it to seep through the cracks. I'll do enough to wet the boards on a particular section. I'll look, and I'll see that it's not actually, well, it is starting to dry, but the reason I'm getting dryish spots on my boards is because it's soaking in. And so once I do a pass, a certain section, a long enough section to where I'm starting to see dryish spots, I'll go back over and wet it again with the bleach mixture. I want to make sure that there's a glistening layer of bleachy water on these boardwalks. Now what's going to happen, because it's raining, it's going to remove the stuff that I loosened up, the dead algae particles. The particles de dead algae. I'm speaking a different language here. And I'm going to come out and I have my choice of either using my power brush or I'm just going to use one of those push brooms and then just go over it because it's a lot more pleasant than having this loud motor running. Use the push broom to clean off the deck boards. I'm going to wait further because the process is not finished yet. I'm going to go back over it using this, being extremely careful. And this is the reason why I do it and I don't delegate it to any of my employees, because I've done this so much. I'm very careful, very conscious of not allowing any of that oil from my Thompson's water seal or the bleach water to get onto the ground. A drop of oil plays havoc in a watery system. This is relatively dry here, but I've got sections of boardwalk where there's standing water. And then I'll go back with the Thompson's water seal. What I've done with my bleach, killed the algae on the surface. The rain and my mechanical action will remove the particles, and then the water seal, after the rain, I'll allow it to dry. The water seal will encapsulate the upper surface of this and not allow the algae to grow back. It's kind of counterintuitive. You'd think that putting an oil onto woodwork would keep it from becoming grippy when it's wet, but Thompson's water seal actually will allow this stuff to be usable in wet weather. There are other functions to what I do. I am the prime supervisor here. So I do the managing of employees and some budgeting and planning programs and making sure everyone is safe and happy. And that is exactly why I'm mentioning this next part. This is the time of the year when I'm hiring seasonal workers, employees. I don't use the word associates. They're employees. They are Swifties. And I had my top 3 candidates, and I was only allowed to pick 2 of them, which is horrible. If you're ever in the positioning of hiring, you know, crushing the hopes of a 16-year-old is really bad. And plus, it doesn't do any good for them, really. I mean, it's a life lesson. They learned that, like, not everything works out. Life isn't fair. You know, I've told my kids that many times. But I had 3 people, my top candidates, stellar individuals, great people. I would hire them all in a heartbeat if I could, but one of them had to go, so I wound up just picking them in order in which they contacted me. I believe it was the fairest way to do it because they were all given the notice at the same time. And so I had this person, told her that I'm sorry, I'm not able to hire you at this time, but, you know, turn your resume in, and if anything happens, you know, you're first on the list. But I went a step further. I stopped by our local land conservancy, wonderful organization that has an educational component. In the summer they're doing education programs throughout the northern climes of the state. And so I talked to them, a person that I work with, different organization, but I still work with her, and told her about this great individual. I would be so disappointed if she wound up getting a summer job that wouldn't use her talents and her skills and her abilities. So, long story short, I'm going to have her come back over. I'm going to sharpen up her interviewing skills, work on her cover letter, which is unique. Not a lot of 16-year-olds include cover letters when they seek jobs, and her resume to tailor fit it to getting this job. And if she doesn't happen to get the job with this local land conservancy, she's gained some practical abilities as far as seeking jobs, learning how to tailor your cover letter and your resume to a particular job. I'm also going to, like, grill her. We're going to do a little role-playing here. She'll probably have a friend coming along that can further help her, you know, practicing the interviewing process and asking her questions, and then, you know, giving her advice on how to ask questions. And also, you know, the typical, the employer, potential employer sitting there and they say, "Why do you want to work for us?" A lot of people without experience would just be like, "Oh, it seems like a neat job," but I'm also going to, like, practice her up with being able to answer that question. She's going to know everything about this organization in order to help her get a job with that. And for those of you don't have trail systems, you just watch my videos because you know, they're great videos. You know, if you have young people that are in your circle, and especially with summer coming up, you know, unless you're in the southern hemisphere, those young people, they need to find jobs, and it would behoove you to help them in this process and discuss cover letters and resumes and practice interviewing, just to help get them a start. You know, that's one of our responsibilities. Being involved in primitive bows, there's a lot of people that watch me because of that. You know, it's our responsibility to pass on our knowledge. It's also our responsibility to pass on our knowledge of how to find jobs. And with that, I shall get back to work. The rain is coming sooner than I believe. It actually feels like it's going to be here tonight. Time to make bunny tracks. Thank you for watching. And again, any questions, or if you have questions regarding trail building practices, laying out of trails, boardwalk building, just ask. I'm here for you, man. What an ending.